Hello everyone, welcome back. It feels like I've been away for a year. I am in my courtyard, it is summer, it's so warm and beautiful out, everything is blooming, and I want to share what's been happening since May. My last video was technically a live stream where I told you I was leaving for like a month, and even longer here on YouTube because I've been away for a month. And then I had to come back and get back into life and routine and, edit this video. Little boy is running around. What is it? Are you running around? Whenever I go away for a while and start recording again, I feel so rusty. So bear with me. So where was I? Let's see. I left Scotland, headed straight to New York, stayed with my dad for a couple days, and then drove up to the Adirondacks because I was attending the Paint the Adirondacks event with Eric Rhodes and his whole company, like the Streamline Plein Air Magazine organization. They run this every year. I think it's been going on for well over 10 years because some of the people there it was like their 10th year or something like that. So I'm gonna take you kind of like on a day-by-day walkthrough of what happened, what I painted. At the end of this little recap, I'll show you all of the artwork I made while I was there. After the Adirondack event, I went back to my dad's house, and then him and I flew to Ireland for a few days, and then he came here to Scotland, which is why I've been away for so long. But going back to the Adirondacks, if you're unfamiliar with what that is, it's a region kind of in upstate New York. A lot of people go camping, there's mountains, massive forests. The area is pretty well known in the artist community because a lot of the Hudson River School artists painted there. Go look up the Hudson River School artists, you'll kind of see what I mean. And we actually painted in some of the exact spots that those artists painted, which is kind of fun, kind of surreal. This event is also sometimes known as the Publishers Invitational because Eric Rhodes started it as an invite-only event. And then over the years, it started to just gain so much popularity, and like artists that were invited would want to bring their friends. And now you can just sign up, you pay a flat rate for your accommodation and food for the whole week. And the event itself is not tutored, it's not like a workshop or anything. You are literally just there to go outside and paint every single day, all day. There are usually, I think, 100 people max, and this year I can't remember exactly how many we had, but upwards of 100. So as I mentioned, accommodation, food, that's included, and we stayed at the Paul Smith College, which is tucked in the middle of the woods up in the Adirondacks. It's a gorgeous campus, but it was actually the perfect jumping off point for us because it's kind of in the middle of a lot of cool things to paint. So, each morning start at the college, have breakfast together in the main hall, and Eric would usually do like a morning welcome message or share where we're headed that day. And also it was kind of fun because he would invite artists up to the microphone and to offer advice or tips. If someone discovered something cool the day before, they could mention it and share it with the group. The campus is right on a lake, and that in itself could have been a painting location all week. It was really beautiful, especially in the early mornings and late evenings. I liked waking up early and going down to the water and observing the morning light and the fog, and it was just really beautiful. The first day, right after breakfast, we all met up for a group photo, which was kind of funny. It's like 100 artists getting together. It's like herding cats, and eventually we made it work. One of the things I appreciated was that, I guess, they've been doing this for so many years. They're really good at what they do. The organizers had name tags with little add-ons like what medium you use. So I added watercolor, gouache, and eventually I think I added drawing to my name tag so that at first glance you could see someone's name, where they're from, and what they use, because that's obviously a huge topic of conversation. And it was just like a quick way to connect with fellow watercolorists or oil painters, or if you had a question about something, you knew you could ask someone about that. They also gave us these massive art bags full of stuff. It was overwhelming actually. And because I had flown with very minimal luggage, I knew that unfortunately I would have to leave my bag at my dad's house. I'm in the dorm. I'm the first one here. Humble little accommodations and a lovely view of the forest. So I'm gonna unpack and get settled. Look at what they gave us at check-in. I can't eat, like what? This is huge. So I don't even know what's in it. We're gonna go through it in a minute once I get everything sorted. Oh, that's cute. That's kind of cool. Flat bottle. Brush. Ooh. Nice big bag. Each day we would divide up into a couple groups, and group A would go here in the morning and then here in the afternoon. Group B would go here in the morning and here in the afternoon. There were just a lot of options each day, which I loved. And depending on your energy level, you could choose where you wanted to go, because some of the places required a bit more walking or hiking, and some of them you could just literally park your car and get out and paint the view, which was great. The first day was pretty simple. We kind of kept it easy by going to a local place called the Vic Center. It was actually part of the college, and it's a gorgeous little spot in a nature reserve. You could either sit on the porch of this location and sketch the view, or you could hike down the trails, which is what I did, because I had heard there was a beautiful mossy river in the forest, which right up my alley. So I braved the elements, and by that I mean very, very hot weather and lots of mosquitoes and black flies. I think that was actually the hardest part about the week, was dealing with the bugs. But we had quite a few windy days, which really helped keep them at bay. It was just if you were in the forest especially, and it wasn't really breezy, you just knew they were gonna swarm you. So as I'm used to that being in Scotland with the midges, so I had prepared all my bug spray, head nets, whatever I needed. I just kept loading up on bug spray, and I was using the natural stuff so I could just keep adding it without worrying. And it did a decent job. It didn't really get bit too bad, but it was well worth it because this location was stunning. It was a gorgeous time of year to be there in June. And yeah, this trail was so beautiful and magical. I would love to go back. I am kind of a sucker for rocks and moss and streams, so it was perfect for me.
More of a view, trying to sharpen boulders with the roots. And then from the deck.
been an amazing day so far. Oh, a black fly just... Okay, I'm walking fast to get back to the visitor center because black flies are out. And I've got quite a few sketches done today. And I'm gonna go have some coffee, snacks, rest a little, and then maybe even come back down the same trail because the river is stunning. The moss and the light in colors is just incredible. Oh, I'm in heaven.
It's a nice view here.
It's redeeming social value.
I've done many
It's called practice.
I swore I
Someday
did it,
I'll
and then.
know
We have
you.
somebody had
I did fine.
It was interesting to dive into such an inspiring place for the first day because I was overloaded with inspiration and I had the highest amount of energy of the whole week. So I just painted nonstop that whole day. It was a lot to start with, but I just embraced it. I was on vacation in a way. I was doing what I loved in a beautiful location, surrounded by other enthusiastic artists, so it was like heaven. At the end of the day, we were all absolutely exhausted, so it was really nice to go back to the dorms and shower and then have a really lovely meal together. And then we could drop our artwork off in the presentation room where kind of all week it would be a little mini gallery for us. So they spread out these tables which already have easels on them, and you basically just choose a spot and then throughout the week add your paintings that you finish. And because I paint a lot, I paint fast, I ended up having to take paintings away each day and put new paintings there because I just was spreading out too much. I tried to keep it as tight as possible. And I loved this idea because obviously 100 artists is a lot. You can't be with everyone all day, all week. So you don't get to see what they're painting all the time. And also you discover new locations. So if you see someone's painting of a waterfall, you can go ask them like, where were you? That's gorgeous. I want to go paint there. And yeah, it was a great way to see just a huge variety of skill sets and yeah, just get to know the artists and their styles and way of working. After dinner each night, we would meet up in this kind of upstairs lounge area, and there's quite a few musicians in the group, so they would bring their guitars or whatever instruments they play and have a little jam session off to the side of the bar, which I absolutely love because my dad's a musician and every time I visit him, he is always playing his guitar. So it's just very natural for me to just sit and listen to someone playing and jamming and enjoying themselves as an artist, as a musician. So yeah, that was one of the highlights for me. Just hanging out, talking, listening to music, unwinding at the end of the day. Very relaxing. And you get to know a lot of people that way too. I tried to like sit with different people, different groups for breakfast, at lunches, at dinners, at the nightly jam session, at the bar, change it up, just get to know a variety of people, which is actually a little bit challenging because there were a lot. You want to sit there and talk for hours and hours and hours. But I guess that's why a lot of people go back every year because they make these friendships, and it really felt like they call it paint camp, and I can see why, because it feels like a summer camp environment. Day 2 was very rainy, very cold compared to the rest of the week. And, you know, that's just how it is. So we had chosen a location with a beautiful view of a river and the blue mountains in the distance. It was stunning. And the light, the storminess actually made it more interesting, I thought. And I am very used to painting outside in crazy weather and having weather change quickly on me, so I felt normal. But it was also interesting to see how others did their setups or like how they handled the weather. Some people actually parked their cars and painted kind of out of their car and had gazebos, and it was like a whole elaborate setup, so that was pretty impressive. I just had an umbrella and was just bracing against the wind and the rain as it came. But because you're in a group and everyone has that energy, I feel like it was encouraging to just do it, just keep going. Whereas, you know, usually you might go out, it starts raining, you pack up and go home. So yeah, I ended up getting quite a few interesting sketches that day. I learned a little bit about painting atmosphere. You're gonna learn something every single time you go out, and I made a lot of mental notes as I was painting, and because it was like an all-day thing, I could paint, critique myself, absorb what I learned, and immediately apply it to the next painting. But in doing so, by the end of the day, second day, I was just exhausted mentally. And I was really realizing, even though I often go out and paint for several hours, it's just not the same as painting all day. It is very mentally taxing because you are making thousands of little decisions over and over again. And I just felt like I was constantly hungry, so I had a lot of snacks with me. I was like, my brain was using up that glucose really quickly, and I needed to start factoring in a little bit of rest time. I knew if I kept up with my pace, because by the end of day 2, I think I did another 6 or 7 paintings. I knew if I kept up that pace, I would be totally burned out by like day 4. But it's hard because I'm so inspired and excited because I'm with all these artists. The only real downtime I had on day 2 was when I was driving to the different locations. By the time I got to the second location, it was still pretty stormy, but it was a totally different view of mountains over a field, and there were lupins and just, oh my gosh, it was so picturesque, so perfect that I almost didn't want to paint. I watched a few others painting for a while. Eventually the bug hit me and I had to jump in. But I actually did sit in my car with the door open because it was really, really gusty in that location. And I painted the view over the fields. There were a few professional artists at this event, like people who do art full-time, teach workshops, go to plein air events all the time, make a living as an artist, and do demos a lot. So those people did a few demos throughout the week. That was another one of the things I loved about this event, was the generosity of knowledge just freely being shared across so many different styles and walks of life and mediums. So after dinner on day 2, one of the artists, Susan Nicholas Geffer, did a demo. Really, really enjoyed watching that process. Another tradition at night was to do figure drawing or live portrait drawing. At that point, I was still just so jet lagged. Like by 8 p.m., my brain thought it was 1 a.m. So I wanted to just faceplant into my bed. And I would wake up at 4 a.m. wide awake, 3 or 4 a.m., boom, awake. Later that night, everyone started talking about how there was going to be a strawberry moon, which is a very large orangish pink moon. And the excitement started to bubble up, and people started getting their painting kits out and going outside to set up to do nocturnes, which another thing I have never done. And at that point, I was about to go to bed because I was so tired. But on my way back to the dorm, I caught a few glimpses of people doing nocturnes, and that was so, so cool. I think there were a few nights of that, actually. On day 3, I think day 3 was my favorite day because something really special happened. First of all, my roommate and I carpooled to this gorgeous mountain, river, waterfall location, and just sitting in front of the powerful waterfall and the crystal clear water pouring over the colorful rocks, I could have just sat there all day and watched it. But I was there to paint, so I painted a lot. And while I was painting, a beautiful blue, possibly gray heron, maybe let me know in the comments, a heron landed right in front of me. It took my breath away. It took me a little while to recover or like snap back into myself and get back into painting mode after that. But it really invigorated me, and I just felt so immersed in this beauty. So yeah, I kept painting. I think I painted 4 or 5 little pieces that around that morning session. And then we decided to have a little mini lunch break in our car and drive up the river to another spot we had passed that looked really pretty. We wandered down this little path right next to the river, and it was this gorgeous orangey red color when the sun shone through it. I was drawn straight to that color. And of course, the dead trees leaning into the water caught my attention. Yeah, I just painted a few different pieces, just really studying the light and the movement of water and the colors that I was seeing. And then at one point, a fly fisherman wandered over right next to us. And I don't know what came over me, but I was like, I gotta paint this. And I don't paint people really, especially not live, moving people, doing something and changing positions a lot. So I have never painted so fast in my life. Like, I painted him fly fishing within a few minutes, and then he moved on. And I was just like, what just happened? And since we live next to a river, I see a lot of fly fishermen, and I thought maybe I could do this more often and make a little thing out of it. once again, a full day of painting, absolutely knackered at the end of the day. So after a little music, I just went straight to bed. And the next day, we went to a location. I've never seen anything like this in person. It's a wooden covered bridge. I feel like I've seen this in a lot of paintings over the years, but I've personally never been to one. So that was pretty special. That was cool. I was drawn to a lot of different views at this location, so it was easy to just stay there for most of the day. But I was a bit nervous at one point here because I had my sandals on, and I remember walking up a trail and there were a couple artists at the top of the trail, and they were like, "Oh, you're brave." And I was like, "Why?" And they said, "Because you just walked through poison ivy." I wiped my feet down with hand sanitizer and then walked down to another part of the river where there wasn't poison ivy, and I dipped my feet in the ice cold water and just tried to, or hoped that it would wash away any oils that had gotten on me. And yeah, nothing came of it. So apparently I just barely missed that one. And then throughout the rest of the week, I was super, super careful, a little bit paranoid because it really was everywhere. Even at the college campus, like different spots near the trails and pathways. But by the end of that day, I was not feeling right. Maybe about 3 or 4 p.m., my throat was starting to feel a little sore. I was starting to feel a little run down and achy, and I just knew, I was like, no, I'm getting sick. And unfortunately, I had said that I would do a little demo, a gouache demo later that day, and I didn't want to back out of that, so I did it. Gouache roundtable, I called it, where I shared my setup, what materials I like to use, how I like to use them. It wasn't an actual painting demo, which I originally wanted to do, but I was not feeling good. I don't even know how I made it through that because it was really hitting me hard. And yeah, people asked questions, I answered as much as I could, and a lot of other people chimed in with their ideas too, because a lot of people really wanted to know about gouache and hadn't tried it yet. It's definitely a topic of curiosity for a lot of artists, especially at this event, because I felt like most people there were doing oil painting. It was really fun, and I appreciated that opportunity. During that little demo, I was thinking, okay, like at the moment I feel like crap. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel better after I sleep. So I mentioned, like, in the morning, wherever we start the day, I'll do a little actual painting demo, so come find me. But unfortunately, I went downhill after that point, and I maybe slept an hour. I was feeling so feverish and chills and hot and just awful flu symptoms. So the next morning I kind of broke down at breakfast. Like I barely made it through breakfast. And I left breakfast and went straight to bed, and I slept all day. And I don't do that. That's not me. That's how I knew I was really sick. I was able to go to dinner Actually, I tagged along with my roommate to this little pond near the dorms just to get some references because I had been in bed all day. I felt so bad, like felt just like I wasted a day. I was like, I need to get something out of this day. So we got a little inspiration down by this pond, and I do want to paint quite a few of the photos that I took there. And then had a little dinner, took it very easy that night, but it was the last night. And at the very end of the night, we were all meeting up for a going away party at one of the local cabins, a very cool cabin in the woods. And we had a wood fire going, lots of music being played, wine and all of that, but I couldn't really partake. I tried to keep my distance from people so I didn't get anyone sick. But it was nice to actually be there and say goodbye to people and just end the week on a good note, even though I was really sick. The next morning, I was well enough to make the 4-hour journey back to my dad's house. This event, the type of experience that you really have to take time to reflect on. Everything you painted, the lessons you learned, the magnificent friendships you started, the gorgeous locations you visited. There's just so many pieces to it. And on one hand, it was a vacation, but on the other hand, it was just go, 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 nonstop every day. Yeah, for me, I also was in this mindset of, okay, I'm going here for a week. After this, I have another 2 weeks of travel. It was just a lot. And I didn't have enough time to properly reflect on the experience. I felt like I had this incredible week, and then I immediately had to change gears and do something else. So that was a bit tough. But, as much as I could in the next couple days after the event, I wrote down thoughts and feelings and reflected on what happened. And I have all these paintings, these notes, as I like to call them, from the event that I took home with me. And I can look at these. And every time I look at one of these paintings, I'm instantly transported back to that spot. So now that I'm home and all of my travels are over for a while, I'm actually taking time to do that. So I thought now I will share my little collage of artwork from this event. And yeah, it's interesting to see it all in one spot after a whole week of effort. So now I'm gonna go make some tea and start editing this video for you. And I'm gonna leave you with a few random clips of my time in Ireland. Even though it has nothing to do with the Adirondacks, I just thought I only painted a little in Ireland and I don't wanna make a whole vlog about it because it was just me and my dad having the time of our lives. It was very personal, but I will leave you with a couple inspirational clips. So thank you all so much for your patience while I was away. I hope you enjoyed this little walk down memory lane into the Adirondacks with me, and I hope you're inspired to paint. I am back home now, so I'm looking forward to getting out there and painting Scotland again. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you all soon. All right, bye. We made it.
We made it, huh?
pretty.